episode of Next Gen Leadership, Solutions for Today's Police Supervisors. On today's episode, we're going to discuss the concept of emotional intelligence. I'm going to explain to you exactly what it is and how you can use it in your day-to-day operations to be a more effective leader. My name is Reid, and not only will I be your host today, but I'm also a 15-year police veteran and the founder of Reid Solutions, a training and coaching company specifically designed for leaders like yourself who are looking for innovative training solutions for you and your organization. Now, one of the best ways to discuss emotional intelligence and a lot of the concepts that we'll cover on this series is through a real-world example. So let's look at a situation that I was thrown into as a young supervisor and how emotional intelligence played a role in it. Now, when I first got promoted to the rank of sergeant, one of my younger officers was involved in a vehicle pursuit. Now, this was one of the first vehicle pursuits that I was ever in charge of as a supervisor, so I was feeling a little bit anxious when I heard it come in over the radio. Now, the officer sounded very clear and concise and was doing everything they were supposed to do. Now, some of the parts of the story that I'm leaving out is the fact that it was pouring rain out. This was a stolen motor vehicle being driven by a group of juveniles. Not really the best recipe for success. So as the pursuit continued, things got very chaotic on the radio. So as a supervisor, I composed myself, got over the airways, and told them to shut the pursuit down. Well, this was met by radio silence. So I got back on the radio again and told them to shut the pursuit down. Well, the very next radio transmission that came over the airways was that of a vehicle collision. What had happened was they had crashed into another vehicle. That occupant was potentially injured, and the occupants of the stolen motor vehicle that was being pursued, they all fled on foot. So now we had a foot pursuit. So I originally was feeling a little uncertain and anxious. Well, that moved to still being uncertain, but now a little bit upset and angry. So let's pause the story right there and start discussing these concepts and pillars to emotional intelligence. 4 pillars to emotional intelligence. And what I need you to understand is they all build upon one another. So the first thing for emotional intelligence is self-awareness. The second is self-management. The third is social awareness. And the fourth is relationship management. So what does self-awareness mean? Well, in the context of emotional intelligence, self-awareness is nothing more than just being aware of the emotions that you're feeling at any point in time. Now, because we are police officers, we don't really talk about emotions that much. But something I want you to understand is no matter what emotions you're feeling at any point in time, whether it's at work or at home, they are valid and it's okay to feel them. It's okay to feel angry or upset or anxious or excited. How you react to those emotions could potentially be inappropriate. And that's where self-management comes in. So self-awareness, we need to be aware of our emotions. Self-management is how are we responding to those emotions. So let's look at the scenario I had with the vehicle pursuit. I was anxious, but I managed those emotions initially when I had to get over the airway. You see, it would not have been appropriate to sound anxious and in a heightened state as a supervisor going over the airways. And that's what you need to understand as a leader. It's okay to feel the emotions that you're feeling, but understand that everybody's relying on you to remain composed and manage different situations. Now, the third pillar to emotional intelligence is social awareness. So let's go back into the story and see how social awareness comes into play. As I'm driving, I'm aware that there are now multiple jurisdictions involved in this foot pursuit. As I show up to the scene, there's 6 other members of my team there, a mix of younger and older officers, and 2 other police jurisdictions. So as I'm walking up to the scene, I'm socially aware. I'm socially aware that it is now very apparent that a supervisor is on scene. I have arrived on scene as the sergeant. Now, what I need to do at this point in time is manage my emotions, manage that emotion of being angry, upset, because there are things that need to happen. The vehicle collision needs to get taken care of. The foot pursuit needs to get taken care of. We need to make sure the officer's okay. That's not the time to let out that anger, let out that frustration. So I have to manage those emotions, be socially aware of all the different parties that are involved now, and that will effectively manage positive relationships. And again, that's the pinnacle. That's what we're trying to work towards as supervisors. And I would argue, you as a leader, your worth, your overall value is how well can you positively maintain great relationships. That's really what you're working towards. Now look, if I showed up on scene and just started screaming and yelling at the officer involved and all the other parties, what is that really going to accomplish? Arguably, it might feel a little cathartic for me at the time to get those emotions out, but is that really the right way to handle that situation? I would argue it's not. I will say this, later on that day, I certainly had a counseling session with that officer. Once that whole scene was wrapped up, we certainly had a counseling session. We had a one-on-one. Then the next day, we came together as a team and discussed that situation. Everybody could learn something from that. So that entire situation, that's emotional intelligence. You have to be self-aware of your emotions. Again, it's okay to feel the emotions that you're feeling. But you as a leader need to manage them. And that's that second component, self-management. The third is social awareness. Be aware of those social dynamics that are going on around you. Be aware that how you manage your emotions is going to forever change and impact those around you and those relationships. And again, the final pillar is if you take all three of those, you'll be able to effectively manage your relationships. Now that's going to end today's episode. Now listen, this is a big topic. Emotional intelligence, there's a lot of different ways to discuss this. So here's what I want you to do. When this video ends, I want you to go right to my website, reidsolutionsllc.com. I want you to book a call with my team so we can discuss getting a training to you and your organization on this topic. I also want you to follow Police One and look out for more episodes of Next Gen Leadership Solutions for today's police supervisors. Thank you.